Ohio State is 3 wins away from a national championship, and 3, as you all know, is the perfect number for a Thursday. It's things to talk about. It's Bill Landis. It's Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas. How was it, Bill? Because it's definitely past Christmas as we record this.
It was lovely.
Good.
We had a great time.
Awesome. That sounds real. Yeah. Berm, how was your Christmas?
It was great. I can't believe the Chiefs lost.
Oh, no. Guess we'll see how that turns out. Yes, that's right. I'm pulling back the curtain. We're actually recording this on a Tuesday, but there's still 3 things to talk about. We're ready to turn the page. Talked about the portal on Wednesday on Christmas, but now it's full barrel action heading to the Rose Bowl, Ohio State and Oregon, the rematch. And as you think about this matchup the second time around, Bill, thing number 1 is the most important thing that will determine this game. What will it be?
I mean, I think it is still the offensive line play for Ohio State, and I don't say that as an expression of concern in any way, shape, or form, similar to how I felt going into the Tennessee game. But when Ohio State played Oregon the first time around, like Derek Harmon kind of messed their stuff up. The Oregon defensive tackle, he had that. Did he have the strip sack? He had the strip sack. Right?
He stripped Quinshon. Yep.
Yeah, and he was. I just really felt like he was kind of gumming up Ohio State's rushing attack for the majority of that game, and that was when Ohio State was playing. It's
Seth McLaughlin.
Yeah, Seth McLaughlin at center, and it's starting guards coming into the year. I thought the guys that played on the interior looked great against Tennessee. All 3 guards in that rotation played very well. They're just going to have to do it again, and I think maybe Oregon's defensive line is probably not as big as Tennessee's. I haven't gone and measured them up to see, but I think they're as athletic and perhaps even more athletic. And Ohio State has gotten a taste of that already, so they'll at least have that familiarity. And it's not that Ohio State has to go to the Rose Bowl and try to run it all over Oregon. It's just the same thing as it was against Tennessee. You know, give Will Howard the time he needs to get that passing attack going and be opportunistic, I think, with your rushing attack, and just don't get put off schedule in that game as an offense. And it has to start with the 3 guys or 4 guys, I guess, on the interior playing for those 3 spots against these defensive tackles of Oregon. The last time we saw Oregon, they got kind of pushed around a little bit by Penn State, so that should give Ohio State some confidence. But it would be hard for me to start anywhere else other than the offensive line. I am who I am.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State's offensive line is not better than Ohio State's, even maybe in this current configuration. I don't think, at least not markedly better. And they ran for 300 yards against Oregon, so it's available. I think Ohio State needs to be watching that and getting an idea of what worked for the Nittany Lions. But ultimately, I think this game comes down to who has the ball last. And so, to me, it's about not turning it over. If I have to pick one thing that will ultimately determine the game, the team that wins the turnover battle in this game will win the game, I think. And we have seen Will Howard play really good, clean football for most of the season, but as it's well known, the times when he makes a mistake, you're like, oh, that's the wrong time for that. Every mistake has come in very inopportune situations. And so I think it's just about playing a clean game and making sure that you don't give Oregon extra possessions, because they have a really good offense, and they are by far the best offense Ohio State has played all season. And they're going to have some new wrinkles. So you just got to keep the ball, make sure that you're not giving them extra possessions is really where I'm at.
I think everyone has properly appreciated what Will Howard did on Saturday against Tennessee. But to your point, Berm, like, there weren't even moments. He threw an interception according to the stat sheet. I'm not counting it. But if you remove that, in terms of a clean game, there weren't even, I'm trying to think of one other throw that was like even in jeopardy. I don't think there was a single decision.
Just the bad throw to Emeka in the first drive, and that's about it. I mean, he was perfect after that.
His second throw. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I forgot all about it, because after the face mask, it was like, well, all right, this game is pretty much over for Tennessee. It felt that way already to me. So if there's one, and he got away with that, and he was penalized for it, I guess that balances out. They wash out. You cancel it. But he played a great game. I think so. I don't want to talk again about the pass rush. We already know that has to be better than it was in the first matchup against Oregon. That's too obvious. But if coverage and pass rush work together, Denzel Burke and Davison Igbinosun, and then to, I guess, a slightly lesser extent, Jermaine Matthews, like they're going to be challenged by Oregon's wide receivers again. And they have played against these guys already. They did not answer the bell, whether they were put in situations that they shouldn't have been, or that nobody is going to be able to account for when Dylan Gabriel has as much time as he had in that game. You know, we've had that conversation plenty before, and we know Ohio State has changed some things with communication, with the way that it's blitzing, with the games and stuff up front. I'm just going to assume that the pass rush is going to be better than non-existent, which is what it was the first time in around. And if it is, but Dylan Gabriel's still going to get the football out, then those guys have to win their individual matchups on the perimeter. And I think, you know, Tennessee wasn't really in a position. They were slightly more equipped to do so than Michigan was. Michigan was not able to really provide a consistent test through the air at all. I still think maybe there's a conversation to be had about Ohio State's corners and the pass coverage going into this matchup, because if you look ahead, I think this is the best passing attack that is left in the playoff, and it is the most daunting because it's also the one that already sliced up Ohio State once this year.
It's crazy. The Buckeyes have not given up a passing touchdown since that Oregon game, which is almost impossible to believe, considering they played 3 top 10 teams in that stretch. So you'd like to think those guys are going into this rematch with some confidence, but you also know that Oregon's going to go into it thinking that they can do whatever they want because of what they did last time.
Mm-hmm.
Thing number 2, if you look back through, you can count Monday's riveting press conference if you want, but and Bill, I know that you were recording with Doug in the immediate aftermath, so you probably didn't listen to all of the press conference conversation upstairs. But one thing we like to do on a 3 Things Thursday is talk about a thing that we heard that was the most interesting thing that we learned. So I'll let Berm go first. Thing number 2. But what was the most interesting thing that you heard?
I didn't watch that press conference with any ability to pay attention to it because I was editing the live show at that moment.
Wow, you really picked a great topic here. Cool.
I will say I'll say, so like, you're right. I wasn't at the press conference, but I did go back and watch. I watched most of the post game, and I watched the Notebook. So if I can like also use the Notebook as part of that too, and give us a plug, you should check it out. It's the best piece of post game content that anybody does. Oh. I can't tell you specifically what he said. It was just like the confidence from Jim Knowles, I guess, in what the defense has been able to accomplish since the Oregon game, where it was interesting to me because we always say like, hey, you're the best at this, or you're the best at that. And he's like, don't talk about that. We can fix this, this, and this. But then he like was saying, we're the best at this. We're the number 1 defense in the country after the Tennessee game. I think he said it in his press conference, and then he said it again to you also when he was talking to you on the stairwell there. Yeah. That definitely caught my ear, and I'm not like, if you feel it, say it. I it's obvious. I think the confidence the defense is playing with, and they should be feeling that way. Now they've not really seen an offense that can stress them in all the ways that Oregon is going to in the Rose Bowl, but the reason they have played so well is because of what they experienced in that game against Oregon, and we'll see what it was all for, right? I think we'll get a very early indication on January 1st of whether or not Ohio State truly, fixed the issues that were apparent to everybody in that game. But I know I'm pretty confident that they did, because I just don't know how you couldn't be. You could be in, I guess, like kind of show me mode. That's fine if you that's probably the proper default. But they've played so well. The way they've changed things up has been. It's pretty impressive. Like they're a veteran defense, and it's not like Jim Knowles like reconfigured his entire defense. It's stuff that he has done before, but they kind of do it on the fly the way they have. I have found to be pretty remarkable, and I think they're going to put out one of their better efforts when we see them on the field next time against Oregon. But yeah, the way that Jim Knowles was talking about all that on Saturday definitely caught my attention.
I like that Ryan Day. I did hear one segment of him immediately saying what we did on Saturday doesn't matter, and like he said that kind of thing many times this year, where it's moving on and saying, hey, the last game doesn't matter, what we do next time matters. And I think there's a tendency for people when you do something really well to want to be like, hey, we're confident, we just did this. And he said, the team has some swagger and some confidence, but he also said that doesn't matter. And that is still important, I think, as you head into this game, because what also doesn't matter is what happened in Eugene, Oregon on October 12th. And so if you have to find a way to flush that from your system, and that starts with Jim Knowles' defense, but it also, is about Ryan Day and about the quarterbacks, and there's about, the game management, the time management, all the stuff that they did wrong in the last few minutes of that game. I think as far as just wasting opportunities to win it, I think it's important for Ryan Day and his entire offense as well to move past that, because the offense is the group that has been in the crosshairs since the Oregon game, even though the defense is the one that needed to make a bunch of wholesale changes after that game.
Both of you guys talking about, Chip Kelly, Ryan Day, Jim Knowles here, and the things that they said after that game, and then the reset is interesting to me and very valid, because boy, did they feel like they had no answers for any kind of question coming out on November 30th. And I do regret like skipping back one game before the end of the regular season after what we just saw against Tennessee. Like, we don't have to keep belaboring that, or I don't have to. I shouldn't have to, or shouldn't just do it. But like, to me, it just makes it even more confounding, because I know how good these coaches all are. We've seen it. We know that they can scheme up anything. We know that they can motivate. We know that they can communicate. And that was the prime example of them at their best on Saturday night against Tennessee. And I assume that that's going to happen with a week and a half to prepare for a rematch against Oregon as well. But it's like just seeing them and the way that they carried themselves in the game, before the game, after the game, it's just like still driving me crazy, because I can't like understand how they could have been so different on one particular day. And every human is entitled to a bad day and to make mistakes. And Jim Knowles didn't really have one on November 30th, so maybe I can remove him from that, although he wanted to argue about it in the build-up to the Tennessee game. But it's like, I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to process what happened on that day, because I expect them to do what they did against Tennessee like every time out.
Yeah, well, just wait. If they do it for 3 more games, it'll be all the more puzzling, I guess. I likewise can't really wrap my mind around it either. And it'll be one of the more fascinating things I think we'll have experience being around this team if Ohio State ends up winning a national championship.
I've just decided to stop trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah,
because it's pointless at this point. It's pointless at this point.
You know what I thought on Tuesday? I was doing some last minute shopping, and the car pulled up next to me, and it had a 2014 national championship license plate holder. I've never seen one that said like 2019 won the rivalry. They don't make those. I don't know. That's just a random.
No, it's funny. No, I mean, ironically, I was talking to someone on Tuesday at a little Christmas soiree, and they were lamenting the fact that Ohio State lost to Michigan. And I said, yeah, but if they win the national championship, like, you're going to remember that. And they didn't have the 2004 team being celebrated at midfield this year because they beat Michigan in 2004. Like, that's not how it works. So yeah, it's important. It's obviously means everything. But once that game has happened and it's over, especially now in this era of college football, you cannot live in it after it happens, because nearly every single year, win or lose or draw against Michigan on the last Saturday in November, Ohio State is going to have a playoff game after that. So like, you have to change the weight that game carries for you after it happens. Now, I'm not saying you have to change the weight of it before it happens, or to suggest that it's not important, because it certainly is. It's a character defining moment. It's a part of your identity as someone who roots for Ohio State and grew up in Ohio. But like, once it's over, it's over. And until next time,
Yeah. I hope they don't ever draw. That seems like that would be problematic for the tiebreaker and for everything after that. I
hope they do.
Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau, again, talking to them on the notebook after the game on Saturday, and like, not being defensive about it, not arguing, not saying, we've really done exactly what we set out to do. And they're such mature veteran guys. And I think the fact that they are sitting there acknowledging we've never played a game together and produced at the level that they did against Tennessee on Saturday night is like refreshing. And I think it's encouraging. And when we talk about carrying confidence and momentum into next week, I said I wasn't going to talk about the pass rush for thing number 2, but for thing number 2, I will break that rule and go back to it. If they are able to sustain that and even build on it, maybe, I don't know how that's would be even possible. That's what's going to make Ohio State so difficult. Like Dylan Gabriel was unbothered in that game. I will keep saying it. And I would be stunned if with the level of energy that those two played with, I remember having the conversation with Larry Johnson in Ohio State in training camp, and like the level of violence the verbiage they were using and the mentality that they wanted to play with. Like, I don't know that we saw that. They've been really good and tough and physical against the run, but they weren't violently attacking the quarterback the way that they did simultaneously against Tennessee on Saturday night. And if that is something that they can duplicate in the Rose Bowl, in the Cotton Bowl, in Atlanta, beyond that, I don't know what the blueprint then is to beat Ohio State or to move the football on their defense. Like, they are the ones that are going to determine the ceiling for this team. And I think they definitely took that challenge against the Vols. And if they do that against the Ducks and anybody else, man, good luck to you. Like, that is a long night if you're a quarterback.
I throw Tyler Williams in there with them too. Like all three of them were all three maybe might have played like the best game they've played. I know the Penn State game for JT always stands out to people. I think I could make an argument that this was more impressive because, like, against Penn State, the quarterbacks and tackles for Penn State were kind of peeing their pants a little bit. I don't know if that was the case here with Tennessee. Just like to see all three of those guys kind of fire off the ball and at times like sacrifice themselves so that one other guy could get a TFL or a sack and vice versa, was kind of going all across the board. If Jack and JT and Tyleek are playing at that level, I don't think you can beat Ohio State. I think it's as simple as that. Doing it against, the Oregon offensive line or hypothetically the Texas offensive line will be a more difficult challenge, but those guys are highly regarded for a reason. The Ohio State guys are highly regarded for a reason. They're just as talented as their counterparts on the offensive line. Just for whatever reason, they haven't all been able to hit at the same level at the same time. Now that they are, it's kind of terrifying, frankly. So if they can bottle that up and keep it going moving forward, I don't know what you would do in that situation.
Yeah, they're pretty good when they're getting after it like that. And I also think like it was a game against Tennessee where we saw probably the full maturation / realization of what Sonny Styles can be a linebacker. I just love like the difference between Sonny Styles on October 12th to Sonny Styles on January 1st is light years. And if you're talking about Dylan Gabriel and what he was able to do against Ohio State the last time around, yeah, it starts up front because the Ohio State defense did not try to pressure him. But it also involves Sonny Styles being able to be maneuvered and moved around by misdirection and by Dylan Gabriel's eyes and the things that he does very well. And I just think it's a different style of Sonny at this point. And so it's really watching the entire defense coalesce. And I thought, I mean, if we're going to call a spade, I thought that the Tennessee game might have been Caleb Downs' worst game of the season. So like when you have everyone else being able to step up, and then you still know that you can get more out of that, out of Caleb back there, I think that you're going to have a really special opportunity against Oregon to it's not about revenge. It's about just being the best version of the Ohio State football team. And it seems like they've hit something that makes them go, oh, wait a second, we can actually be pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, revenge is just a bonus because you're trying to win a national championship. Like, I don't think you're going to go into the Ohio State locker room, or we're going to have, full team media day when we get out to Los Angeles and be like, how bad do you guys want revenge? They want to win a national championship. Like, if they remove Oregon from that equation, cool. Like, that's a perk. But I don't think that they're going to put up the score of the game or be talking about the last second with Will Howard anymore. I don't think that that's necessary. Of course, they're going to watch the film and learn from it, but I think the revenge subplot is probably way, way down the list. Like, just not really even relevant.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what is relevant? Will Howard saying that winter came for the Volunteers is maybe one of like.
I thought you were going to say this for the third thing.
Man, I don't know what the third thing is.
I know, but you were about to just cram a third thing into thing number 2. Like, you can't do that. All
okay,
right?
sorry.
Contain yourself.
Okay, well, give me the third thing so I can cram it in there.
All right. We've done this once before, early in the season, you and I. This will be the first time for Bill, so I'm curious to see what he will say, which is a thing, because it's the holiday season. We're living in gratitude. What is a thing that you have appreciated about covering this Ohio State team? And now you can, as you always do on a 3 Things Thursday, wrap up by talking about Will Howard, Berm.
I just love Will Howard, man. I just think that he is so perfectly encapsulates what a college quarterback should be. And then you see, like, I finally started to rewatch that game a little bit over the last couple of days, and the throw he made to Emeka Ibuka on the sideline, where he like looks at the sideline and puts on this big poop eating grin, and like you're like, wow, this dude is in his bag and feeling some type of way. And when you think about how maligned he was after the Michigan game, and he did not play well, it was his worst game of the season, to bounce back and bring what he brought to the table against Tennessee, and to do it in the style that he does it, which is like, I thought Ryan Day on Monday, and another thing I heard him say was that he challenged Will Howard that he had to be the best leader on the field. And I think that Will, when Ohio State recruited him, there were a lot of people kind of shaking their head and wondering why. And I think that every game, whether it's a game Ohio State won or lost, we have seen why Will Howard was the choice for Ohio State. And it's fascinating to me how quickly someone can ingratiate themselves to an entire fan base and to a program, because the kid who spent 4 years at Kansas State and is as vocal and as outwardly proud of being a Buckeye as anybody on that roster. And I think it's awesome.
So do you like have the Instagram? Is that the background on your phone now? Like that you want to look at it all the time?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's a bridge too far.
It was a pretty great caption.
It was. We talked about it a lot on Kings of the North. It was like he did it specifically for us.
That's very nice of him.
It was.
You guys give him a little Roosters gift card as a thank you for that. How would you answer this, Bill?
So give me the prompt again. Like a guy I'm like appreciative of having covered.
Anything. It can be the college football playoff giving us full access at home, and getting us anything that you are appreciative of covering this team.
It's never boring. That's one, Bill.
It is. No, that's no doubt about that. I would probably focus on a player too. And I said some of this on the Kings of Columbus show we did on Sunday. And I apologize for repeating myself, but I do feel like it bears repeating what Donovan Jackson has done for this team since Josh Simmons went down, or I guess since Sam Mahalski went down after replacing Josh Simmons initially. And like he didn't cap it with what he did against Tennessee, but it was just like, I thought, a pretty emphatic statement by Donovan Jackson in that game, in some matchups with James Pierce Jr., who's going to be a first round edge rusher. And the fact that you didn't notice Donovan, I guess, was maybe the most important thing. But I don't think he's given up a sack since that Penn State game where Abdul Carter got him a couple times in very obvious passing situations. And it's his play at left tackle, the way he's been able to steady that position in a real time of need for Ohio State. And there was no guarantee that he would do it, because he has made it look easier than it should be to just pop out to left tackle from left guard. But another thing that I have appreciated about him in particular too is I think it was an answer to a question you asked him, Austin, last week about like being the guy that has helped to sort of keep the room together. And he's like, yeah, I've had to give a couple different versions of a motivational speech this year and like change it up each time something bad happens to the offensive line group. I just get the feeling that there's a ton on his plate, both on the field and off, and he's handled all of it incredibly well. And he's not like the most out there person and doesn't get talked about a ton. And I think it's just worth like taking a second to appreciate how important he's been. And I think people know how important he's been because of the position that he's been playing. But a lot of the offensive line conversation has been, what are they going to do with this interior stuff? Like it's been a lot of negative. And Donovan Jackson, I think, has been an overwhelming positive the last few weeks.
There's probably not a player on the roster who has helped his draft stock more this season than Donovan Jackson.
Yeah.
And I think that Doug mentioned it on that Kings of Columbus Sunday Sound Off show. Like it's hard to make a case against him as this team's MVP, which is not something I think you would have thought about when the season started.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both very good points. I would have to say I'm at the point where I just can't believe what I'm watching with Jeremiah Smith. And maybe I've been there in September. I like to be that person who says, well, we don't have to see a freshman impact. It's not good for the program. That means you've missed on the other classes ahead of you. And Berm, I think, hates that about me because
it's true.
He's never been more right. Sometimes he is marginally incorrect, but and I should have known better because I went to the 7-on-7 in South Florida with him and watched this guy when he still had a full year of high school to go. And he looked like he was a 6th year NFL veteran. So I should have known better. And I did know better after watching, what did we get? 5 spring practices, like that he was going to be special, but I still did not think like best wide receiver in the country. And who said it this week? Todd McShay, that he'd be the number 1 draft pick in the next draft, like 2025, based on what he did this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how I would argue against it. I don't think NFL teams want to take wide receivers number 1 overall because they're infatuated with quarterback play and needing to build around that position. But he's the perfect wide receiver. He might be one of the most perfect football players I've ever covered. And I've been blessed to cover some of the very best at every position over the last 13 seasons at Ohio State. Like a crazy, crazy, crazy amount of NFL talent. I am in awe of what he's doing, and I want to properly appreciate it because this is incredibly rare.
I don't know that we'll ever be able to properly appreciate it. Just because of how rare it is, but it is. No, I appreciate that they played him in the slot against Tennessee. That was fun. Putting him there, moving him around a little bit, getting him the ball quickly. I would love to see more of that over the next.
They're like, hey, remember when we had that slot Marv idea?
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about slot Marv. Oh, what a time.
It's like watching Wayne Gretzky or Michael Jordan or one of those players. Like he is a true, like the term generational talent gets thrown around a lot and oftentimes when it shouldn't. This is not a case where that's hyperbolic at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing is that I'm talking about Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan at the peak of their careers. And he's a 18-year-old college freshman. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. That may be a little bit too far. I don't know if you can throw him into Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan territory just yet. That might be a bridge. You've finally done it.
Nope.
Okay.
It's spot on.
All right. Well, you've been right so far. I guess I should know better than to argue against you. So I won't. Ohio State is getting back onto the practice field, getting ready for the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day against Oregon. We will be back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Friday and Saturday before traveling to Los Angeles on Sunday. So way more content still coming your way as we get ready for the quarterfinal matchup in the Rose Bowl. Can't wait. Getting ready to build towards that as we transition out of the holidays and into another holiday, New Year's Day in the Rose Bowl. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us on a 3 Things Thursday. We'll see you next time.